Hello and welcome to this demo video for the project costs and profit dashboard. This is one of the selection spreadsheets where you can select which components of the spreadsheet you'd like. And if you have a look down in the tabs, you'll see the different colored tabs. So the dark red one here is one that's included. The normal red, yellow, light green and dark green, those are components that you can pick. And then the dark green one, this dark green here is there regardless. So let me just talk you through how this works. Let's start off with an overview of the tabs that you will get. Obviously this intro and setup tab, that's all done. You don't actually need to set up anything on the spreadsheet except for the projects. The projects, give the projects number. Now the reason for this spreadsheet is so many people will buy stuff for projects. They might even outsource some. They might even outsource some of the work and get other people to do it at an hourly rate. They themselves spend time working on the project, and all of those different components add up. And at the end of the day, so many people don't know whether they've made a profit or a loss on each individual project. They might know at the end of the year when the accountant does the books as to what the overall situation is, but they don't know from project to project. And this is a very simple spreadsheet. It's only got 4 components, where some of the other ones have a lot more, and it's designed to try and help you to calculate how much money you've made on each project and to see where your costs are higher than maybe what they should be. So whatever project it's doing, give it a project number, select the client. Now the clients, the reason why it's selected is because as you add a new client, you'll see they get added on there. So I've got Mr. Client and Mrs. Client. If I put in there new client, then I go and click the drop down list, you'll see new clients now added on, and they'll go into alphabetical order. The reason for that is just so that, because what might happen later on is you may actually want to get a report where you want to use the same client over and over again, because you might obviously have the same client more than once and you want to be able to sort it and get those clients together, that kind of thing. So it's just helpful to have the name in a drop down list, because otherwise if you misspell a name, it won't necessarily associate it with the same client somewhere else. So anyhow, select the client or enter a new name if you've got a new client, then put in the project name and then the value of the project, because obviously you need to know what you're charging, and also the invoice and sale date. That invoice and sale date is merely just to be able to assign these into kind of months, that type of thing, as far as when the sales were made. So that's what you do per project. Obviously, if you're busy with a project, you may not have an invoice or sale date. Just leave it blank until you do. That's how you set up each project. So each of these lines will be a new project. You can come and remove them if you want to. If you want to remove a project afterwards, if it's done and dusted and you've got the stats, you can just go here, right click, clear contents, and then resort by number or whatever, and it'll resort in number or alphabetical order. So that's where you add the projects, and that is a tab that you will have regardless of how many of these components you take. The other bit you'll have is on the report. You'll have the overall report, so you'll see the breakdown. Now, bearing in mind, if you don't take the time component, for example, you won't have the time element in the report, but the report will still look like that. It just won't contain the components that you don't have. So that would be an overview of all the costs of your project as well as the profit. Now please keep in mind that's not necessarily profit as far as what an accountant will talk about profit. That's just the profit on that job. All your overheads and expenses and all the rest of it that aren't within this job will still have to come out of there. So you do need to keep that in mind. It's obviously accounting for your time spent and your hours and subcontracting and all of that. But if you've got overheads, it's not included in this. So that will still come out later on. So this is merely what have you spent on that particular project that you've entered, and how much did you charge, and that's the balance there given as a profit. So you can see obviously your average for all the jobs and your total for all projects, and your average per project there to show the different values. There are the figures. If you scroll down, you can also see a project comparison. You can come here and select up to 10 of the projects. Now I've only got 2 in, so that's why there's only 2 there, but you can select up to 10, so you can see how up to 10 projects compare, and that will show you the average of the 10 projects that you've selected. So that part you will receive regardless of which components you take. So if you add the projects, you fill in all the components you do have, it'll come through to that report. Let's go now to the financial component. Right, this is the financial component. From when I say a financial component, basically, are you spending money? Now, I'm not talking about time, I'm not talking about travel, I'm not talking about outsourcing money, outsourcing work to others who you have to pay. That we'll get to. This is merely, are you spending money? In other words, are you buying stuff? Are you buying products? Are you buying postage and packaging? All that kind of thing that you need to put within this project. If the answer is yes, then you'll need this component. So what you do is you come here, you simply select the project that you want, that you're purchasing something for. Put the date in when you're purchasing that item, so that you got a reference, and then just simply come and put in which item it pertains to. Now, as you can see at the top here, you got these headers: type 1, type 2, type 3. You can enter up to 6 types of items. So you can come here. You might want to put in here, say, materials. You may want to put in here, say, packaging or postage and packaging, or whatever the case might be. You can decide up to 6 different headers of the different kinds of things that you would regularly purchase, so that you can categorize what you're actually purchasing. And then all you do is you simply put the value of what you purchase in the correct column relating to that project on that particular date. It's as simple as that. If you want to sort by any of these, what you could do, as I said earlier, you can actually remove items here from the projects. If you remove items, remove projects, what will happen is you'll get a little X here to say that that project is actually missing, and this will turn up red. If you want to sort to get all the removed projects at the top, all the data for the removed projects, all you do is you simply come to this column, you right click, copy, select the top of sort, come to here, right click, paste values, not normal paste, that'll mess up your spreadsheet, paste values, and then you'll get all the X's in this column. Then you can sort to get all the X's at the top, and you can simply come along and right click, clear contents of all the relevant projects that you want to remove, and then just sort by date order again, and it'll resort into the order that it was. So that way you can actually remove projects from here. Yeah, what does that do on the report? It gives you a breakdown of all of your costs for all your projects and your average per line, and it gives you a breakdown of all of your the expenses and money that's going out from on all of your projects. So that element of the report will only be included if you take that component. The next one we'll get onto is the time report. Right, this is the time report. Again, very similar to the financial report. Even if you're not taking that component, you might just want to pop back and have a look at that. You can select the client, put in the date, and then you've got up to 6 different types of time that you can spend. So you can then come and go, well, maybe the time you spend on a certain part of the project, you want to cost at a higher rate. Maybe there's expert time and there's non-expert time. Maybe if you're the director of the company, it's a small business, maybe you're spending time actually making the product where you want to charge a higher hourly rate. And maybe you're also spending time packaging the product, but you don't want to charge the client for a higher hourly rate for packaging the product, so you want to charge a lower hourly rate, that kind of thing. So you can go and select up to 6 types of things. You don't have to use all 6 that you do, and then put an hourly value to those particular types. And then all you do when you spend time is simply come and put in how many hours you spend on each different type for each different project on the different days. The days aren't vitally important. All the days on this whole spreadsheet, the dates aren't necessarily vitally important because it doesn't break down to months and things like that. It actually just shows, basically just gives you the breakdown of the time spent. So the dates aren't necessarily important if you want to lump these together, say at the end of a week or something like that. But just make sure you put the number of hours in the correct column, because obviously it's looking here at the value for those different types of jobs so they can work out what to cost. Again, this will show any items that are missing. When I say missing, if you've removed projects, and then if you copy that data, paste value here into the sort, you can sort by all the X's to get all the removed projects at the top. Select that, clear contents, and then resort by date to get the items all back in where they were. So you've removed any projects that you may have removed from your projects page. If you want to see that in more detail, go and have a look at the financial part of the video, and it will show you. What does the time show on the report? Well, very simply a breakdown by the time, the categories of time that you spent. You can see a breakdown by time, obviously, per category, and then the total value and a total time. So that gives the value of the time. This is the actual time spent. That gives the value based on your hourly rate. So the graph should look the same. It's really just a case of which one, really just a case of the values. But here you can see the values anyway. You can see the values at the bottom. So that is the time element. And obviously bear in mind that including all these components will also be included at the top here in your overall graph as well. So that's the time. The next one we get onto is the travel report. Right, the travel reports, much like the time and the financial, you can go back and watch one of those if you want to see in detail, but really just selecting the client, putting in the date whenever you do any travel, and then simply selecting which travel. Now, I've put 3 different kinds of travel, and I've put an hourly rate of the time spent that you're traveling. And I've got the rate per mile. That's obviously if you're driving. So if you're driving and you put a rate per mile, just put in the rate per mile. This is the cost of a ticket. If you basically either want to be putting in the driving or you want to be putting in the cost of a ticket. Don't put in both, just put in one or the other. So you either want to put in the miles if driving, or if you're not driving, put in the cost of the ticket, because that will then either take your price of your miles times by your mileage rate, or it'll take the cost of your ticket and go, that's what your travel cost you. But there's also time. So how long did it take? Because that also goes down to a cost. Now, I've got 3 different kinds of travel here. Why do I have 3 different kinds of travel? Very simply, you might have a different hourly rate for driving as you do for train, for example. Because driving, you can't do anything else. You're pretty much stuck driving. You can maybe listen to a podcast or something, but that's about it. Whereas on the train, you could have your phone with you. You could be doing social media stuff. You could be doing other things. So you may have a different hourly rate, what it's costing you in essence for each of the different travel. That's why I've put 3 different kinds of travel. So whatever types you put in here, they will be in these different sections. Just fill in the right columns based on which type you want. Now, this might not necessarily be the type of transport. It might also be the type of work that you're doing. You may charge more for an hourly rate to get to a meeting as you would for an hourly rate to deliver a product. I don't know. It's totally up to you. Just I'm trying to make it as flexible as I can for your business so you can decide on what's going on there. Again, any items that you've removed from the projects will appear as an X in the missing. So if you copy that data, paste values here and sort, you can get all the items that you've removed from the projects at the top of the list to clear them and then resort by date again. If you want to see that in more detail, check out the financial tab section of this video. Again, on the reports, it gives you a breakdown based on the type of travel. That would be the types that you've selected in type 1, 2, 3. It gives you a time per category and a time value per category and all sorts of things, miles per category and travel cost per category. And obviously, if you haven't put miles, and if it's train travel or something like that, it's not necessary. It's not going to appear on there. The next one would be the staff and subs reports. Right, so staff and subs reports. This is if you're outsourcing work. Now, if you've got a staff member or a sub, you can put them in. Obviously, subs will be easier because you're charging them an hourly rate. Staff, you're going to have to work out what their hourly rate is in order to put it in here. But essentially what you do is list the names of people that you could be outsourcing work to and put in their hourly rate. It's as simple as that here on the staff and subs list, because once you've added them onto the staff and subs list, when you come here, you can select the project that they're working on. Select the date. Now again, the dates aren't vitally important. If you want to put a week's worth of data, you can do that. You don't necessarily have to put per day. And then just select the person who you've outsourced work and how many hours they've worked. and any expenses. Now the expenses doesn't include the amount for the time that they're working. That will get calculated. Expenses are other things. They might have travel costs or whatever else that they need to account for. So you can put the expenses in. Again, if you want to remove someone, have a look at the financial tab part of this video, but we show you how to remove people that you've removed from projects, because they'll come up red here. You can use the missing data to put in the sorter column to sort, to get them in the right order, to clear anyone who you've removed from the projects, so that you can clear up some space. That will then feed through to the report. So if you fill that in as far as people that are working outsourced, it will come to the staff and subs report, and it will show you the cost per person, time cost per person, and the expenses per person. So you can see a nice breakdown there of who is actually eating up your resources, as it were, for what you're doing. So that's the overview of the projects. As I said, the overview report. Let's just do a very quick recap of the spreadsheet. Number one, intro and setup. That's all done for you. Firstly, list your projects. If you want to remove any of the projects, you can come here and clear the contents for those particular projects, and then go through these different tabs using the sorter column to copy the data across, paste values, and resort, so you can clear them all out of these tabs. You've then got the report, which uses all the data, and you'll have the elements of this report. If you have a look down the right hand side, you'll see the color. If you've ordered that particular component, you'll have that particular section. Here are the different components: financial, time, travel, and staff and subs list. This is where you list your staff and subs and their hourly rate, and this is where you input the work that they've done. And all of those together will then obviously influence the report tab. So you'll have this regardless. You might just be missing components of this tab if you don't take those relevant components. So really it's just a case of going through, filling in the necessary information as you're doing your projects. Once you've got a project overview, and the report will update automatically as you go along. And I think that's all that there is to say about the spreadsheet. I hope that's all that there is. But yeah, if this is something that you use, and I think if you're doing projects and you don't know your individual projects as to how lucrative each project is, and you want to know, this will be a very, very, very good start. I do realize that a lot of this kind of spreadsheet is very much needs to fit with your business rather than your business fitting into the spreadsheet. So if this isn't enough, if this doesn't do the job, we do have some other kinds of spreadsheets like this in the store that do similar jobs. But if you really can't find something that fits with your business, please get in touch and let's have a chat about a bespoke version. And I hope that helps you. And if this does, I wish you all the best with your projects going forward. Thank you very much, and goodbye.